Is it just me, or does it seem like Jesus Christ is on his way? Is it just me, or could it be that it could happen any day?
Am I the only one who believes we're on the brink of eternity?
Is the church about to leave, or is it just me?
Good morning. So, like you said, my name is Dave Morad, my wife Esther down here. We joined Living Waters in October of 2020, so this will be our fourth summer at camp. It'll be my second summer as the director. If you're familiar with Living Waters, I'm sure you know who Roger Black is, and I got the privilege of taking over from Roger almost 2 years ago. So if you're not familiar with Living Waters, we're about an hour and a half north of here on East Grand Lake in Weston. Next biggest town is Danforth. I guess the biggest town would be 45 minutes north of us is Holton. So that kind of gives you an idea where we're at. But we also have 3 different types of programming that we do at Living Waters. We have your traditional overnight youth camp, which runs Sunday to Friday evening. And then we also do family camps, the same time frame each week. So we have 7 weeks of youth camp and family camp. So when I say family camp, we have a motel, cottages, and an RV park, and we do camp as families. We have many weeks where we'll have 3, almost 4 generations of a family there at camp at the same time. So that is a very unique setting that we have that we feel very honored to be able to do. And then we also do wilderness adventures. We have a state licensed guide, Will Cliff, who is our director of that. And there's a few brochure trips this year, but they go and do trips down the Allagash with different types of groups. We have a youth group from Pennsylvania that comes up a few times. We have some youth groups. We have some Bible studies. We've even had a women's Bible study that has done a trip. But he can make a custom trip to whatever you would like if one of our brochure trips is not for you. So we do have those 3 different aspects of camp. During camp, we have different weeks. We have our Pioneer Weeks, which are for 7 to 12-year-olds. Then we also have our sports weeks. We have a youth week, which is 8 to 12-year-olds, and then a teen week, which is 13 to 17-year-olds. This year we're trying something new. Most of you that know Living Waters knows that we've had horses. This is our first year without horses on property year-round. It got to where the financial side of it and the staffing side of it was getting very difficult. Our average age of our horses was about 28 years old. Roger was the one who cut our hay, and half of the hay equipment was Roger's. So when he left, we lost that equipment. Then also Liz Bell is our director of the barn, and she was having difficulty finding people that could come alongside of her in leadership roles to help with that. So with all of those combinations coming together, it was time for us to say we were not going to have horses on property all year, but the people that we gave our horses to, we had an agreement that they would allow us to borrow them back if we did do something. So we will have a week of equestrian camp. It'll be very similar to our sports week, where you can choose to either be in the equestrian program working with the horses, or we're going to offer a wilderness base camp at the same time. So you can choose which one you want to do. The horsemanship, all your sessions will be with the horses, learning about horses, how to care for them, different features of horses, how to ride horses, all of that kind of thing. And then our wilderness base camp, our wilderness program, will be running that program. It'll be out of the main camp. They will do canoeing on East Grand. They will start learning the outdoor skills of shelter building and things like that. But it's to give those an opportunity that want to get into the woods and learn about being in the wilderness, but aren't quite ready to be in a tent sleeping on the ground for a week with every meal over a fire. It gives them a more of a beginner or entry level into the wilderness experience. So that's a new week we're doing this year. We're excited to see how that goes. We also, the week of Independence Day, which is July 4th for us, we have a lot of Canadians come over, and theirs is July 1st. So we have that week of independence for both countries. It's hard to booked that week because a lot of families want to be together during 4th of July. So that week is more focused on family camp. Generally, we have 2 different Bible studies going. We bring in speakers for the youth and bring in speakers for the adults. That week, we bring in 1 speaker. Everybody's together, and we try to do all of our activities as family units. We have fireworks over the cove. We do hamburgers and hot dogs on the waterfront, small parade and decorating your cottage or RV, things like that. So we have a lot of fun with that. And so with our sports camps, we do basketball and soccer. So if you know anybody that is into basketball or soccer and would like to have a concentrated time of learning those skills, along with hearing about Jesus, you can come to that. We'll go ahead and show the video real quick, which will give you kind of a little sampling of what a week at camp would look like. This was taken mostly during one of our sports weeks, so you'll see a lot of basketball and soccer in it, but it'll give you a general idea of what it's like at camp when you're there. Yep.
I was a prisoner to shame, stuck in my own miry clay. But then you called me by name, gave me new life, now I'm saved. I once was broken and weak, weighed down by chains in defeat. You set this captive I'm free, lifted me up, now I sing. I will rise on wings like eagles, I will walk and I will not faint. I will run and I won't grow weary, you are my strength. Prisoner to shame, stuck in my own miry clay. But then you called me by name, gave me new life, now I'm saved. When I was dead in my ways, from heaven running you came, ripped me right out of that grave. My God is mighty to save. I will rise on wings like eagles, I will walk and I will not fade. I will run and I won't grow weary, you are my strength. Now as I wait upon you, Lord, in you I'm renewed, in you I'm restored. Oh, I will rise on wings like eagles, I will walk and I will not fade. I will run and I won't grow weary, you are my strength. I will rise on wings like eagles, I will walk and I will not fade. I will run and I won't grow weary, you are my strength. I was a prisoner to shame, stuck in my own miry clay. But then you called me by name, gave me new life, now I'm saved.
So that's a little taste of what happens at camp. So some updates of what's been going on out there. Last year we had close to 450 students come through our overnight camp. There were 16 recorded salvations, 3 assurances of salvation, and 10 rededications. So those are the ones that we had conversations with, were able to record it. So we're very excited about that. We upgraded. If you in the video, you can see we got TVs and stuff in the front of our tabernacle now to help with the worship time, so we can get the words up there so that the kids can all participate in that. We've done the same in our adult chapel to help with that also. We have camp-wide Wi-Fi. Now, a lot of people ask me, why camp-wide Wi-Fi at a Christian summer camp? Well, we don't allow our overnight campers, our youth campers, to have cell phones, so they can't access it anyway. But coming out of COVID, we've realized that families, if they're more able to come to camp for a week, If the parents can have access to some internet, if they got to check emails, still do some work, they can do that. We've had quite a few that come. They get a couple hours in the early morning, get their work done, and then they're able to participate in camp with their family. So we wanted to be able to offer that, so to make it easier for families to be able to come and experience what we do at camp. We also last year got all new bedding in all of our cottages and motels. We've added a salad bar, new tables, ice machine into our dining hall. The Spear Cottage, we have been raising money for a number of years to build a new cottage at camp in the memory of Billy Spear. That is completed and will be available this year, so we're excited about that. And last year in the fall, we had our first men's retreat, and I don't know how long it's been since Living Waters had a men's retreat. We had 30 men come to our men's retreat. We'll be doing that again in September this year. I tried to pick a Saturday that would not interfere with anybody trying to hunt, so we're trying to squeeze it in there. I understand how some that is can be very important, and I enjoy it myself, so I understand that. But with that, our purpose for our men's retreat is to help raise godly, manly men. And so we don't put a cutoff on age for the men's retreat. If you have a son or grandson that you feel can participate in something like that, he is welcome to come. We do not do activities that are targeted to children, but if you want them there alongside of you to be part of that ministry, we welcome it. Just remember, he will be with you the entire retreat. You'll be responsible for him, so take that into consideration. But we're looking forward to another great men's retreat. This year, Matt Little, the president of NBBI, will be our speaker, and I believe he is bringing some of the students to lead us in worship during that time. So if you're available, we'd love to see you there. That information is on our website and in our brochure with dates and all of that. Some other upcoming things. You already mentioned the all-nighter that we had, 162, I think it was. 160 some teens were there. It was a very good time. We enjoyed ourselves, even those of us that are a little bit older and it's a little bit more difficult to stay up all night. It was good. I think it was probably the most engaged I've seen the students to a speaker in the times that I've been there. So I just pray that what he shared is getting through, and they're working on that. The focus of our speaker was on being clean and empty vessels for the Holy Spirit to use. So it was I think it was a very impactful time for our students. So we were glad we could do that. We had our Ice Out Challenge last Saturday. So myself and 5 other people jumped into East Grand Lake. We raised about $8,000 doing that. So what we do is we ask people to sponsor us to jump into the lake. My goal every year is $3,000. That's how much it takes to get me to submerge in East Grand Lake. This year I did not hit my goal. I was a little bit short, so I was telling everybody I was only going to go in the fraction of my body of the fraction. So I only had to go into just below my knees. I ended up going into my neck, but the rest all submerged, and we're thankful for that. Those monies go towards our waterfront and our program, our youth programming. So we are thankful for that. We've got Camp Work Day coming up on May 4th. Anybody interested in that, we just ask that you call the office, let us know you're coming. That way we can make sure there's projects for you and that there is lunch available. And then on June 21st and 22nd is our ladies retreat. We've been doing that for quite a while. It is a good time. It fills up quick. So if you haven't registered and you're thinking about coming, I would recommend you do that quickly. And then our pastors retreat, that is the beginning of June, 3rd through the 5th. It is for pastors and any church workers. So whether lay person volunteering or you're a paid position, you're welcome to come to that. It is a free retreat. So we're looking forward to that. I do have flyers in the back for that. And so if you're interested in coming to that, just let us know, and you can register for that online also.
And that's the week when we're guinea pigs.
Yes.
Christian workers come and see if everything's working.
Right. That's our first event. So, we tell the pastors that, we're honoring them by having them come, and we don't charge them to come and all of that. Actually, they're the ones that make sure all the toilets flush and all of that kind of stuff. So it's one of those that if they come complaining because their toilet didn't work, you didn't pay anything. So hopefully, no, it's a great relationship. We love to be able to honor our Christian workers and our pastors in that way and give them the opportunity to just get away for a few days, be ministered to and refreshed, and help us work all the bugs out. They seem to have a better understanding of working those bugs out, so we appreciate that. This year for Memorial Day weekend, we will have our RV park open. We are not doing food service. We're not doing any kind of programming. It's just going to be a traditional bring your camper, bring your tent, and stay there type of a thing. Just kind of, we have some people that come seasonally, and that's the weekend they choose to come and open up their campers. And so we figured, why not offer it to whoever wants to come and be in beautiful Weston on East Grand Lake for Memorial Day. Just call the office and let us know. There is a small charge for that, but it's not a high one. And just get a chance to get out and start experiencing what we have at camp. So that's new this year. So hopefully if you're looking for somewhere to go camping Memorial Day weekend, you might consider coming up there. Some projects we have going on. Every year we give our campers devotionals. I have some on the back table. They're similar to the Daily Bread. There'll be about 3 months worth of devotionals in there. We give them one when they get to camp, so that our counselors can help them learn how to use it in the mornings, and then they take it home with them, and then 3 times through the year, they get another copy mailed to them. It's got our logo on the front. There's a company that puts this together for us. It'll have our logo on the front, has a letter from camp in the front cover, and then on the back cover, it has some pictures and just something from camp reminding them of their time there. We are finding that it is a great tool for helping those that go home that don't have the resources or a home church or anything like that to try to help them stay in the Word even when they're done at camp. So that's one of our projects we do every year. I think it's up to $650 a camper, which isn't bad if you think about they take care of the postage and all of that. But when you're running 450, 500 campers at $6.50, it can add up. So that's one of the projects we have out there if anybody wanted to help with. Just see us. We're working on trying to get a privacy fence put up between our girls' cabins and our RV park. If you're familiar with how camp's set up, we're just trying to do that just to help with some of that privacy and that security between the two areas. We've been able to purchase new speakers for our tabernacle. We're hoping to get some in-ear monitors in there. We're always trying to improve our kitchen and dining room. And then our wilderness program is working on purchasing new canoes for doing their Allagash trips. So those are some of the projects we have going on. I've told you about our equestrian camp and the wilderness base camp. The Spear Cottage is available. We do have some new incentives for staffing. All of our staffing is volunteer. We do have a small love gift that we give them at the end of the summer, but we've been trying to figure out ways to help them to when they're taking a summer off and ministering. We want to be able to help them financially in some ways. We have always had a $1,000 college scholarship available to anyone who worked the whole summer. And when I say the whole summer, it's a week of training and 7 weeks at camp. So it's 8 weeks at camp. So we've been able to give a couple of those scholarships out after every summer. But this year we're expanding our scholarships. If you go to private Christian school, high school, and you come and you work and you serve at camp for the whole summer, we'll write a $1,000 scholarship towards the tuition of that private school. Or if you're going on a missions trip, we will give $1,000 towards your expenses to go on that missions trip. So that's for a commitment of 8 weeks. We will do that. And then also if a returning staff were to refer someone who comes and works the whole summer, you'll get a $100 bonus per person that you refer. And if you're coming and you're going to stay at camp and you refer somebody, we'll give you $100 off of your stay at camp per person that you recruit to come and work on our staff. Because our staff are volunteers, we can start taking staff at 14 years old, so 14 and up. And when I say up, I mean up. Mrs. Emery, how many of you are familiar with Mrs. Emery? She just turned 100, 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Last year was the first year she hasn't been to camp. And if you've been around camp, you've seen her in the office. So if you're not over 100, you can come and help at camp. If you're feeling led to minister there, one of the things that we're running into is it's very difficult to find counselors, people to be in the cabin with the kids. And most people, when I talk about camp counselors for the summer, they think of 19, 20-year-olds being in the cabin. Well, we're kind of thinking outside of the box, and we're challenging anyone that feels called to work with kids, who loves kids, loves Jesus, and wants to introduce the two to each other, to come and maybe minister for a week at camp as a counselor. Last weekend, I believe it was, I had a woman who's 72 say she's praying about coming and being in a cabin as a counselor. Now, you may say, I can't get in the Gaga ball pit with these kids. Well, that may be true. I can't get in the Gaga ball pit with these kids. But we need people who are going to love on them, show them who Jesus is, and be there for them. So you may not be in the pit with them playing the game, but you could be next to them cheering them on, which can be just as encouraging. And that also leaves time for those conversations. If you're there being part of what they're doing, and that might leave that opportunity for them to come over and have that conversation they need to have. So we're expanding what camp counselors look like at Living Waters. So if you feel led to minister to kids at Living Waters, I'd love to talk to you. Maybe not being in a cabin is not your thing, but we always need help with our housekeeping or our grounds or in the snack shack or in the craft shop. So we have a spot there that we can fill you in if you're feeling called to minister. Maybe Living Waters isn't the camp that you're feeling called towards. That's okay. I'm a little partial and think it's the best place for you to go is Living Waters. But there are great Christian camps all over this state that need help. And so if you feel called to be in and help any of these camps, call their office. They will be ecstatic that you called, and I'm sure they'll find a place for you. So pray about that. And if you feel called, let us know. We would love to have you there. So with that, we're finding, the reason I started talking about that is because a lot of youth groups are having older people helping. And they're finding that retired folks helping youth group has been a great combination because they have the time to give to these kids. They can show up at basketball games. They can show up at school for lunch, things like that. So we're trying to think and see what's going on, where the need is, and how can we fill those needs. So those are some of the things that we're doing there. But we have those incentives available. If you could be praying for camp, like I said, staffing is always the highest priority as far as our needs. So be praying for God to send the right staff to camp this year to help us with that. Second to that is always finances. We're coming out of the winter season where we don't have any revenue coming in through any of our activities. So we rely solely on donations from individuals and churches. And God has always seen fit to meet those needs. But from our perspective, it'd be nice if it was a little bit sooner, and things like that. But just be praying for that. Continue to pray for that. God is faithful, and He's taking care of all of those needs. So we thank you for that. Whenever I'm asked to come to a church and I'm getting the opportunity to give the message, I like to let people know I am not a preacher. I'm called to be a camp director, but I've learned that there's something that I have, that all of us have, that we can share and we can give, and it's normally unrefutable because it's our story. It's a story of what God has done in our lives. So what I generally do is I give my testimony and talk about where I've come from. That helps you to get to know me, since I'm the new guy in town. And it allows me to tell a story that can show what God can do. I was born and raised in the church. I tell everybody I've been going to church 9 months before I was born. Brought up that way. Brought up in a very conservative, more legalistic style of a church. My family was not quite that way. They were much more open, but grew up in a very legalistic church. Went to camp. I went to a camp that was a legacy camp. My dad worked there before it was open. My parents met at camp. My mother was saved and baptized at that camp. So when I was old enough to go, I couldn't wait to go to camp. Went there, worked there as a teenager and into my college years. And I think it was 16, 17 years old, I thought, how cool would it be to work at a camp, to run a camp as a paying job, as my job. And I thought that would be amazing. And I prayed about that. Obviously, the Lord has seen fit to allow me to see that happen. But during that time, I was trying to figure out, like most kids, when you're getting ready to graduate high school, it's nothing new that we're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I did not like school, high school. I couldn't wait to get out of it and be done with it. And so I graduated high school, went to camp and worked at camp for the summer, got home, and okay, now what? And my mom handed me this old thing that was black and white with writing all over it, called the classifieds in a newspaper, and told me to find a job. So I started looking through the classifieds. I got a job with a carpet installer. Are any of you familiar with what it's like to install carpets? I started doing that until he taught me how to start kicking in carpets. If you've ever seen that, slamming your knee against the tool to stretch the carpets. And I could not get out of my car when I would get home. And he told me, "No, don't worry. When you kill all the nerve endings in your knee, it won't hurt so much anymore." So I started rethinking my career choices. And a friend of mine got me a job with a carpenter. I worked with him for about 10 months. And as I was doing, I enjoyed it. But the idea of school wasn't quite as bad as I thought. So I enrolled in Liberty University in their youth ministry program to become a youth pastor. That's where I met my wife. So the cliff notes of our relationship or our lives is I was born and raised in New Jersey. She was born and raised in Pennsylvania. We met in Virginia. We got married in Maryland. We raised our kids in Missouri, and then we started empty nesting in Maine. So that's kind of the quick version. But we met at Liberty. I was there for about 3 years. And just like any college, doesn't matter if it's Christian or not, you have to make the right choices and right decisions. I made some poor choices, poor decisions, who I was hanging out with, that kind of a thing. Was struggling with my junior year. I was living this lifestyle outside with my friends, hanging around Lynchburg, and studying to be a youth pastor, and the two just didn't seem to work. So I was praying and searching how to correct this. I went to some of my professors who were teaching me to become a youth pastor. And I'm old enough now that I'm realizing perception isn't everything. My perception was all I got from them was Christian cliches. That I'd ask them what I should do, and they would just say, "Read your Bible." And I was like, "Well, is there a spot that can you lead me to a section that I might want to read?" Or they'd say, "Well, pray about it." And I said, "Well, I am, but I feel like my prayers are bouncing off the ceiling. Can it be a little more specific?" My perspective was that's all I was getting. Became very frustrated. I called my parents, said, "I'm done, come get me." The next weekend they picked me up, no questions asked, and brought me home. At that point, I was done with church. I was done with religion, whatever you want to call it. I never questioned my salvation, but just what it was all about, how do we live our lives, that kind of a thing. I felt like if I didn't read my Bible, do my daily devotionals, God was waiting up there with a ruler and was going to slap my knuckles because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so I was done with trying. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with the standards. So I came home and I was met with the classifieds again. And so I got a job at a grocery store. And during that time, Esther and I ended up getting engaged. We got married and we were just living life. Now, because we were both brought up in church, we had the habit still that we would go to church every Sunday, which sounds odd when I'm done with religion, but we still went to church. Part of it that's where our social life had always been our whole lives. Youth group, if the doors were open, we were at church. So we still went to church. We found a very legalistic church because we knew how to walk that walk and talk that talk, and nobody would question where we were spiritually. We could hide there. So we'd go to church, that would be our social life, and then we'd go home and just live our lives. Every week I was coming home with another idea of what I was going to do when I grow up, and everything from going into the military to going back to carpentry, whatever. My very wise wife sat me down and said, figure out what you want to do and let's do it and I'll support you. But this trying to figure things out. So growing up, the thing that my dad and I did that was that click between us was fixing the car. My dad was a mechanical engineer. He did all the work on our vehicles growing up. Most of our parts to repair it came from the U-Pull junkyard. And so I remember as a 10-year-old, it was a great honor to get to go with my dad to the junkyard. We'd get in there and the Buicks were over here and the Chevys were over here, and I learned where they were. And he's like, okay, we're working on the Buick today. I'm going to go find the right car. You bring the tools and catch up to me. So 10 years old, carrying the heaviest thing in my life, the toolbox. He'd find the car and stand up on it and wave at me, and then I'd get over there. Can't imagine having a 10-year-old walk through a junkyard carrying a toolbox by himself today, but that was back in the 1900s, so we could do those things. And so the greatest joy for me was when my little brother got to go because the youngest one had to carry the tools. But that was the bond that was how my dad and I bonded, was with cars. And so there was a local college that had a automotive program. It was a cooperative with General Motors. So you got accepted into the college, then you get accepted into the program, and then you had to get a job at a dealership that was participating in this program. It was 8 weeks in class, 8 weeks in the dealership, back and forth like that for 2 years. We didn't follow a traditional college schedule. I was fortunate enough that I got a job with a dealership that had a second shift. So I was able to work my 40 hours a week even while we were in classes. I was non-traditional student. I was married, had a rent, had a car payment. So that was very helpful for us. During those 2 years, we got pregnant twice. So my daughter and my son are 12 months, 2 weeks apart. And that brought some complications. Esther, because they were so close, wasn't able to pick up anything over 10 pounds. So she had to stop working. And we had a almost 1 year old, so she weighed more than 10 pounds, so she couldn't take care of our daughter. So we ended up moving in with her parents in Pennsylvania, and I had graduated. I was working in Philadelphia, and so we did that. During that whole time, I never prayed about, Lord, what do you want me to do? Should I go into automotive? It was just kind of like, well, I enjoy cars, let's do this. So we moved to Pennsylvania, and we're trying to figure, okay, where are we going to go to church? We need that social network. If you get to know me, I am a very social person, so I need that social outlet. So we decided to go to the church that Esther had grown up at. The pastors had changed. Her parents actually went to a different church now. We started attending that church, and while we were there, God used the pastor there to get a hold of my life and our life. I remember sitting around the kitchen table in his 100-year-old farmhouse, and he asked me what my testimony was. And I shared it. And I was honest and open with him about where I was with my walk. And he was the first person that sat down and explained to me how the relationship that Christ wanted with me. And the one thing that stood out the most to me was he said, you got to change your perspective. When you don't read your Bible and you're thinking God's up there waiting to smack you with that ruler, he said, change that. When you do read your Bible, when you do your devotional time, think about him up there going, hey, my boy read my word today. Hey, my boy prayed with me. He talked with me today. I got to have a conversation with my son today. And that 180'd our whole perspective on that walk with Christ. I was still working for a General Motors dealership. I was a master technician. Through that time, he brought me in as the intern youth pastor at the church. I ended up being on the deacon board. And those desires to be in full-time vocational ministry started to come back. I would tell people I wanted to work on something that lasted longer than 3 years or 36,000 miles. And so we started praying about, Lord, where do we go? What do we do? Am I supposed to be in a church as a youth pastor? What are we supposed to do? And in the early 2000s, the internet was starting to become a thing. A friend of mine told me about a youth camp, not a youth camp, but a boys ranch in Missouri. It was for at-risk boys that instead of going into the system, they were sent to this ranch. It was a Christian-run ranch to help reform these young men and introduce them to Jesus. And they were looking for a mechanic with youth experience. Well, that's a very unique combination of skills, which I just happen to have. So we went through the process. We got hired on at the camp, at the ranch, and I can go on for an hour about how God worked all of that out, but we don't have the time this morning. But we moved with our 4 and 5-year-old halfway across the country to the boys ranch. We worked there for 3 years. And after 3 years, God made it evident that our time there was done and that we were to leave the ranch. Now, part of our salary package was our housing. So it's not like just leaving a job and you just find another job, but we had to find somewhere to live. We were praying about and having friends pray about where we were to go. And it was the strangest thing. We weren't hearing anything. We were being told, you need to leave here, but not where to go. And that's a very weird place to be. We had some godly people that were praying for us and helping us through that. And they said, what I kept hearing was, don't go anywhere. Well, I had to leave there. So we were going to stay in southwest Missouri. At the time, we were making next to nothing working for this ranch. So we didn't even have the money for first and last month's rent in an apartment. We couldn't rent anything. But it was still the early 2000s, and you could buy a house with no money. So we bought a house right off the Arkansas line in Missouri. Esther ended up working for a bank. I went back to working as a mechanic. I did that for about 10 months and was actually costing me money to go to work. They didn't have enough work for me. As a mechanic, you get paid flat rate. If you work on a car, if you do brakes on a car, you get paid 2 hours to do the front brakes. Whether it takes you a half hour or 3 hours, you get paid the same. The bad thing with that is if you don't touch a car, you don't get paid anything. And there were days that I'd go to work and never unlock my toolbox. And so it was costing me money to go to work. I ended up doing a side job, helping a friend replace the engine in his vehicle. He worked for the ambulance service in Branson, Missouri, and they were looking for dispatchers. I ended up getting a job as a dispatcher for the ambulance in Branson. I'm one of the only people you'll ever meet that got into EMS for the money, but I did. I ended up getting my EMT license, got involved with the local fire department, and became a lieutenant of the fire department. Started getting my certifications. Eventually, I was working on the truck as an EMT. in Branson, and I really enjoyed it all. But through that time, we got connected with a couple that I knew back when I worked at that camp in New Jersey as a teenager. And I get a Facebook message from them saying, "What are you doing in Missouri?" Well, I looked them up, and they're in Missouri. They're in southeast Missouri. We're in southwest Missouri. So my response was, "What are you doing in Missouri?" Here they were working at a camp that was being built from the ground up. It was a brand new camp. And so we went and visited with them. At the end of the visit, I got asked if I would consider joining the staff there. It's a large camp. It sits on 5,000 acres, and it was being built through a foundation. The position I was offered was warehouse manager and purchasing agent. There's not too many camps that have those style of positions. The main thing that they were interested in for me was my EMS and fire background because of the ruralness of it and the size of it. They were looking at what they could do for safety measures and things like that on that side. After a 2-year process, we got hired on and we moved to Piedmont, Missouri, which is about 2 hours south of St. Louis. And we got on staff at Eagle Sky, a camp out there that was being built. We were there for 9 years. We got to see the camp open. I had expressed since I got hired there that my desire was to be part of the camping side of things, not as a support role. During that time, we created, and I got to be the chief of our own state licensed fire department on property. So I got to do those things, but I was not going to be part of the camp side of things. I was going to be in the back side of that. My prayer became, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, if you want me to be in this support role at this camp, I will do that. I just need you to change my heart, change what I want. I need your help to do that, or you need to move me. And so my prayer for about, 6 months was that. 6 months in, I get this small voice in the back of my head that says, if you want me to move you, don't you think you should look? And so I realized I was just praying for this miracle to just drop a job in my lap. And so I started looking around at what camp positions were out there. And there's an organization called Christian Camp and Conference Association, which we were part of, and they have a classifieds. So I started looking through there for a camp that had a programming or director type role, and then we're looking for a couple because we wanted to work together in that ministry. Found a few, sent resumes to a few, and Living Waters was one of them. And through about a year process, in the middle of COVID, we got asked to come on and join Living Waters at the time as the director in training, with a 2-year plan that after 2 years that I would take over for Roger and Karen as they retired from Living Waters. So God has given all of these my life has directed my path, even when I wasn't looking for it. If it wasn't going into being an auto mechanic, I wouldn't have been able to go to that ranch. I can look back now and see how he was still guiding my path, even though I wasn't looking for it. I thought I was doing my own thing. And so what has become my life verse is Philippians 1:6. Being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Even though I wasn't walking close with Christ, my relationship with God was askew. He was still faithful because I was one of his. And he still directed my path, and he's given me the desires of my heart. Through the process of joining the staff at Living Waters, my prayer became, Lord, if this is not where I'm supposed to go, you need to stop it. Because it has been my desire to be a camp director basically my whole life. And when that desire gets put in front of you, there's blinders that go on sometimes. And I said, I can't trust myself to say no, but I can trust you to stop it. And it was a kind of a different way of approaching it. It was one of those, God, I'm going for it until you tell me to stop. And so that's what we did. God has made it very evident that we are where we're supposed to be. We love Living Waters. It is an amazing place. If you've never experienced it, I highly recommend you get the opportunity, either a retreat or a week, or just come out and visit us. Just let us know you're coming. We'd love to show you around. But God is faithful. And that's the one thing that I take away when I look at my testimony is his faithfulness, even when we're not. And so those of you that maybe have kids or grandkids that are not following that, I heard one person put it, they're working on their testimony. He has a son that is not walking, and he says, my son's working on his testimony. God is faithful. And if he began a good work, he's going to complete it. So that's kind of my story, my walk. God's not done with me yet. We're looking forward to the next however many years at Living Waters and getting to minister there. So thank you, sir.
Hello, this is Jeff Tenney, pastor of Faith Bible Church of Oleman. Thanks so much for worshiping with us today. We trust it was a blessing and that you might find encouragement for the coming week in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. If you're ever in the Greenbush area, we'd love to meet you in person. Our services start on Sunday mornings at 9:45 for Sunday school, 11 a.m. for the morning worship service, 6 p.m. for the evening service, and on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. we gather for Bible study and prayer. May God richly bless you and your family as you seek to serve Him wherever you are this week.
When I'm around, heaven is listening to my song.